I was sitting on my porch with a glass of sweet tea, watching the sun dip behind the pines, when Trisha came tearing around the corner in her golf cart like a NASCAR driver on her third glass of boxed wine. "You and that porch are tanking property values," she screeched. I stood up, smiled, and said, "Guess I better call the crew then." She thought I meant family. I meant the biker crew I fix bikes for. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, what? How's that legal? And how has no one noticed? Welcome to Brookstone Ridge, where people are pros at seeing what they want to see and even better at ignoring everything else, including me, or leather, or the concept of minding your own business. I didn't grow up here. I inherited this house from my Aunt June when she passed a lovely woman with a killer lemon meringue recipe and a soft spot for garden gnomes. She lived here peacefully for 30 years. Me? I lasted 2 weeks before the first HOA letter hit. Your porch furniture does not meet community aesthetic standards. I had 2 wicker chairs, a weather-worn table, and a cushion that had clearly survived a storm or two and possibly a divorce. Apparently, that was enough to offend the sensibilities of the Brookstone Beautification Council. At first, I laughed it off. I wasn't hosting raves or painting the siding neon, just existing. But the letters kept coming. Then the anonymous notes. Then the cold stares when I walked my dog. It was like living in a wine-drenched version of the Stepford Wives If the Horror came with HOA bylaws and smug Facebook posts. I met Trisha officially at my first HOA meeting. The type, oversized sunglasses, precision-cut bob, and the kind of faux smile dentists warn you about. "We like to keep Brookstone refined," she said, oozing superiority. "I plan to breathe and sit occasionally," I replied. Apparently, that was too much. She started posting porch photos to the neighborhood Facebook group with captions like, "Is this the look we want?" and "Dive bar vibes." One close-up of my sweet tea mug read, "Is that alcohol?" Someone commented, "Disgusting." Trisha liked it. Still, I kept my cool. I knew better than to react right away. You don't want to rig game by playing their rules. Let me pause and clarify something. I'm not some outlaw looking to stir the pot. I pay my taxes, mow my lawn, and scoop my dog's poop. But I also spent 15 years working in a motorcycle garage. You help people in that world, they don't forget it. So when I made a few calls and said, "Hey, I've got a suburban situation brewing," the response was fast. But that's getting ahead of things. The tipping point came 3 days before the big blow-up. Trisha showed up with her sidekicks, Pam and Diane, clipboard in hand, looking like they were running the HOA mafia. "We've had complaints your porch is being used socially. Isn't that what porches are for?" I blinked. She smiled like a shark. "Not here. We promote refinement, not tailgate culture." Tailgate culture? I didn't even have a grill out there. She handed me a violation for unauthorized seating, visible beverages, and non-regulation table shape. That's when I smiled, because she thought she'd won. I folded the paper neatly and said, "Maybe I don't belong here." She strutted back to her cart, muttering, "Some people just bring the neighborhood down." She had no idea I'd already texted Big Rick and JoJo, and that Saturday's forecast included engines and barbecue. But things took a turn. That night, I found an unmarked envelope on my door. Inside was a typed message. "You don't know who you're messing with." And just like that, I knew Trisha wasn't just petty. She was playing dirty. By Monday, fines started piling up electronically, courtesy of Clint, the HOA's unseen compliance officer who I imagined had no chin and wore a Bluetooth headset 24/7. My infractions? Improper porch usage, bright-colored chairs, and non-neutral decorative mugs. I didn't argue. I just bought a throw pillow shaped like a rooster wearing aviators and placed it dead center. Legal? Yes. Infuriating to Trisha? Absolutely. She drove by 3 times that day, each pass slower than the last. Her gaze could have melted asphalt. Then came Ellie, lived 2 houses down. Hoodie-wearing, sarcasm queen, survivor of many HOA scuffles. She brought me a mason jar of lemonade and whispered she did the same thing to the Millers. They had a flamingo. 6 weeks later gone. I asked if anyone ever pushed back. She grinned. "Not like you." That stuck. Not like you. I wasn't trying to fight a war, but now I was. The next few days brought more violations. Excessive outdoor conversation, visible drinkware, and unauthorized social interactions. I laughed. Out loud. Social interactions? So I leaned in. Started doing phone calls from the porch. Bought mugs shaped like flamingos' skulls. And yes, even one shaped like a toilet. Got a doormat that said Porch Pirate Welcome. I wasn't breaking rules. I was dancing on the edge of them. Trisha took notice. She stopped driving by and started walking. Circling. Clipboard in hand. Monitoring. Neighbors noticed too. One guy nodded and whispered, "You're braver than I am." She's the HOA Terminator. Good thing I've got reinforcements, I smiled. By Saturday morning, 15 bikes rolled up, chrome gleaming under the sun. Big Rick, Jojo, and the whole gang. Not to raise hell, just to help. Rick dismounted and said loud enough for the neighborhood to hear, "Looks like you could use a hand." I nodded. Funny, I was just thinking that. Jojo fired up the grill. Cassie, the bartender turned biker queen, set up a folding table. No porch involved. Every cooler sealed. Music low. No rule broken. Cops showed up in 20 minutes. Officer Langston, who once responded to Trisha's report of a suspicious van, it was Amazon, surveyed the scene. "All legal?" he asked. Rick handed him water. "Recycling sorted too." Langston chuckled. "You'll have a good one." Trisha watched it all from her porch like a dethroned dictator. Furious. Silent. Then something incredible happened. The neighbors came. One by one. Ellie brought cookies. Kids asked questions about the bikes. Mr. Dalton, who hadn't left his house in months, got a ride around the block and came back grinning. By sundown, it was a block party. Real community. Loud. Messy. Human. The next morning, another flyer on my door. Emergency HOA meeting. Proposal to restrict driveway usage and guest activity. Trisha was panicking, trying to claw back control. That's when I called George. Not a biker's a lawyer. Helped him fix up a Harley years ago. Owed me one. I told him what Trisha was doing. His reply? She made a mistake. A big one. I'll explain at the meeting. And so came the final act. The meeting was in Trisha's living room, this time her turf. But George walked in like he owned it. Polished. Calm. Deadly. Trisha tried to shut him down. George replied, "I'm legal counsel for a member. If you're conducting a vote, my presence is lawful." She had no response. George then pulled out the HOA charter. Read Section 7, Article C aloud. Board members using their position to harass residents could be removed by vote. He passed around every violation I'd received. Petty. Baseless. Then I stood up. Said I came here to grieve, to live quietly. That I hadn't fought back with lawsuits, but with laughter, friendship, and maybe a little mischief. Ellie stood. So did Mr. Dalton. One by one, the stories came out. One by one, hands rose. Trisha's empire crumbled that night. She was voted out. 2 weeks later, her house hit the market. She moved out quietly at dawn. The new HOA president? Ellie. The new rules? No weaponized citations. No more porch policing. Be neighborly. That's it. That Sunday, I sat on my porch, rooster pillow under me, tea in hand. Big Rick rolled by and gave a two-finger wave. Peace returned. Not the silent, forced kind. The real kind. A few days later, I got another typed letter. "You may have one this time." I smiled, dropped it in the trash. Because maybe I did. Or maybe I just reminded everyone that porches aren't just for show. They're for living. And no HOA president clipboards, threats, or notes was ever going to take that away from me.